Tiberius is still pretty new to the realm. He's been around for 2 weeks, and I think I've spent enough time playing against him to fully understand his place in the game and how to counter him. He's definitely a pretty good character, but he's still far from being at the top of the meta, so he's definitely not overpowered or anything. However, he can be rather annoying due to all of his spam and burst, but I do understand people wanting to know how to counter him so they can be less annoyed by him. Since his kit is relatively standard and versatile, he's a lot like Leon in the sense that he doesn't have a lot of character-specific counters. He definitely has a few, but for the most part, you counter him by playing in a certain way. So first, we're going to go over more general ways to play around him, and then we'll talk about some of the character-specific counters. Alright, so first and foremost, Tiberius is very reliant on his abilities to succeed. His base DPS is rather low for a DPS character. If he's only attacking you with his base weapon, then he's no real threat to you. Most characters can take him when his abilities are down. So with that in mind, you want to play safe around him until his combat trance is used. This ability amps up his fire rate and movement speed, and it's what mainly allows him to outduel you as a DPS or melt you as a tank. Play around corners that you know he can't easily bounce his weapons off of, and take cover when he uses his amp. Then wait it out. You'll know when it's activated because it causes Tiberius to glow. When the glow is gone, you could take him on. If you're a high burst duelist like Leon, and you're accurate, then you do have a pretty even fight against him even when he's amped. But I still do recommend waiting it out to be safe. Unless he's not looking at you, of course, then by all means nuke him. If you find yourself out in the open when Tiberius amps himself, use your movement ability to get to cover. Or if you're a tank, you can use your barrier to block it. He may be able to easily melt your barrier while he's amped, but it still keeps you from getting melted yourself, so I'd say it's worth it. Now his amp is the main worry, but his sword throw can be pretty lethal too. At base, the burst on it isn't too high, and that's because after it hits you once, you can easily use a movement ability to get out of the way when he calls it back. Movement abilities often ignore slows too, and that's good because his sword has a heavy slow. Resilience does reduce it, but I don't recommend buying Resilience only for Tiberius. If Tiberius has teammates that also have CCs, then I'd recommend buying Resilience since you'll be getting more overall value out of the item. Now if he's running his Tigron's Fury talent, things are a bit different. He can easily throw the sword at an angle so it goes through you and into the floor behind you, then he can instantly detonate it for a big burst. And at that point he only needs 2 weapon hits on you if you're not a tank. You definitely want to be mindful of this ability and attempt to avoid the first hit because odds are you're not going to be able to avoid the AoE, it's pretty big and it has no fall off. However, if you at least avoid the first hit, then you will be taking less burst. Avoiding the ability is pretty difficult though, I will admit. It's very fast and barely has a windup, so you would probably have to get lucky with strafing. Now as far as character specific counters go, Terminus is a character who loves fighting spammy characters, and Tiberius is no doubt one of the spammiest. Whenever he amps himself, you can siphon it and he either has to not fire and waste the ability, or feed your siphon and take a big burst of calamity blasts after. You can also even eat his attacks when they bounce off of walls. Fun fact, Terminus can also block the AoE whirl attack from his ultimate. However, Terminus cannot block the dash attack from his ult or his sword throw, so be mindful of that. If you're low and facing Tiberius, you want to get somewhere safe, because if you attempt the siphon, he'll probably use one of those 2 things to finish you off. Atlas's barrier is also a similar counter. It isn't as good as Terminus's siphon because it can't be used constantly due to its cooldown, but you can still put it up whenever he amps himself. And like siphon, you don't have to worry about Tiberius melting your barrier. Shaolin is also a great counter due to his silence talent. Again, Tiberius is heavily reliant on his abilities. So if he's silenced, he's basically screwed. Hit him with that silence arrow from any distance, and then burst him down with your rapid attack for an easy kill. Torvald of course can silence Tiberius as well, and at a great distance at that thanks to his direct current talent. So that's a counter too. However, keep in mind if you silence him after his combat trance is already active, he will still be able to keep using it, it doesn't cancel it. You have to silence him before he uses it. As far as people that counter Tiberius at base, that's really it. Of course, Worm Drogos is a good thing to use against him too if Tiberius doesn't have any hit scan on his team. but that counter is pretty specific compared to the rest. All that's left are counters to his ultimate. His ultimate is a great space maker tool due to how effective it is at forcing your attention. Then Tiberius' teammates can easily push in on your team while he's ulting. Thankfully, Tiberius is not CC immune in his ultimate, so any CC can stop him and make him easier to kill. However, he is very mobile during his ultimate, so if the Tiberius plays right, he can avoid many different CCs in the game. So in order to effectively counter his ultimate every time, you want auto-aim CCs like Torvald's Silence, or AoE CCs like Damba's Fear. Any CC like that will easily counter Tiberius' ultimate. CCs that are base abilities are more recommended since Tiberius does get his ultimate way faster than other characters get theirs, and that's due to Tiberius' honed sense card. Anyway, that's basically it. Again, he's a pretty standard and versatile character. He's not somebody like Rom who has multiple different direct counters and is only good in specific scenarios. That's definitely a good thing though. Having multiple hard counters makes having fun on characters pretty difficult sometimes. It's better when characters only have a few hard counters, but also a few good ways to play around them. That way they can still be effectively dealt with without being rendered useless. But yeah, hopefully you guys found that helpful. Are there any other ways to counter Tiberius that you guys have found? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. And that's pretty much it, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I'm gonna see you guys later. Bye.